Welcome, my friends. I'm Dave Champion. This is my stupendous co-host, Bill Carnes, and together we are totally unprepared.
Which is not exactly true, but we are nearly unprepared.
That's right. We're like lunch prepared.
If that.
Yeah, we get together at lunch.
We talk about one subject for a long time, then what else should we talk about? And in 30 seconds, we have the whole show figured out.
Let's tell the truth. We spend about the first, 80% of the time catching up personally.
Yeah.
And then we squeeze in what we're going to talk about
Yeah.
the show the last 20 seconds. Speaking of what we're going to talk about on the show, we've talked at length about the corruption of the current Nye County sheriff and how, starting from the campaign.
It's one thing after another.
Lie after lie after lie after lie. And it continues. I mean, you would expect somebody, now look, I'm not naive. I know politicians fudge, okay? But hers was not fudging. I mean, hers was...
It's like a resume.
Blatant lie.
When you fill out a resume, your job history looks a whole lot better and sexier than you probably actually are as an employee.
Right. But hers was like, she had actually been sweeping the floors at General Motors, and she said she was the CEO. I mean, that's how badly she lied when she was running for office. And of course, as one could expect, she won with 72% of the vote. So you can imagine there's no reason for her to stop what has worked for her. And in fact, she has continued it. So there's a couple things that have come up that I think are anywhere between utterly disgusting and hysterical, depending on your point of view. The first one, we've talked about now Sergeant Dave Berukowitz at length on this show before, and all of the things that he has done. He's got the county sued.
You know what's interesting, just from my perspective?
Repeatedly sued, I should say.
I have heard about Dave Berukowitz many times over the years. But, I have no idea really who he is. Like, if we bumped into each other at the grocery store, I'd have no idea who I was talking to. I don't know. I know him by the legend of Dave Berukowitz is all I know.
And there is some, and usually legends are false. In this case, most everything you've heard about him is true. Most recent, I don't know whether it was this last pay period or the one just before that. Now, a pay period for the Nye County Sheriff's Department is 2 weeks, 15 days, something like that. Okay, and his pay for one single pay period was $7,000. Can you believe it?
That's like $15,000 a month if you're getting...
Can you believe it?
Yeah.
And, it's funny because I tell people, Sharon is sheriff in name only. She was elected, she gets the title, but because she lied about all of her background, she has no idea how to run a sheriff's department. And I think the current pay for the sheriff, somewhere in the ballpark of this county, $103,000 a year. Okay? And if Berukowitz continues to reap $7,000 a pay period, he's on schedule to make $168,000 this year.
Now, is that like after taxes, not including benefits, I wonder?
It's not including benefits. We're talking about, I got a piece of paper each pay period and I put it in the bank. That's what we're talking about. And
so now, if that's the case, if that's the net and not the gross, we're talking with pay and benefits around $250,000.
Yeah. Well, even if it's just gross, the gross for the sheriff is $103,000. So, and I've told people all along that because Sharon she lied about her background, so she had no experience that would prepare her to run a sheriff's department. I have told people that Dave Berukowitz is the de facto sheriff in this town, and Sharon walks around acting like she's the sheriff, but Dave Berukowitz actually runs things. It was actually a conversation overheard. I hesitate to tell stories like this because I am getting it third hand, but I trust the source. That Berukowitz was in an argument with, an energetic discussion with another sergeant. And the other sergeant said to Berukowitz about a particular topic, you don't have the authority to make that call. Only the sheriff can make that call. And Berukowitz responded back to that statement and said, the sheriff does what I say. Okay.
Interesting.
And that's said in front of witnesses, right? This tells you how blatant the perspective is, his perspective, and probably the perspective of a lot of the people who work at the sheriff's headquarters, that he is the de facto sheriff. She has the title, but he's the one that's running a sheriff's department.
And as I understand, as I've heard, Berukowitz is actually, his job was on the chopping block a couple of different times under the previous sheriff's administration.
And he should be gone now if Sharon Worley had any integrity. Berukowitz would be gone now. You know, the county has had to pay out lawsuits time and again for his conduct. You know, taking people's like sexual explicit content on their devices, putting it on his own device and showing it around to other members of the...
Yeah, that was public information that happened, and the county paid out an undisclosed amount. However, the person who won the lawsuit, that was the victim that was sued, disclosed that the amount was somewhere around $220,000 or something like that.
The actual figure was $190,000 because when you get to $200,000, there's some insurance issues that kick in, so they kept it at $190,000.
And I understand the other person in this video that was being showed has also filed the same suit.
My understanding, and I can get this clarified, my understanding is it's related, but if it's a different video. So this would be incident 2 doing the same criminal act. The fact that he's still on the department is incredible.
Well, it also gets me that I understand he had shown that to supervisors as well, and the supervisors didn't stop it. And this is in the last administration as well.
Right, right. Then the other thing is, you remember we talked about the snipers on the roof during the All Lives Matter protest at the sheriff's station about a month ago. Well, once we came out on the air here and talked about the snipers on the roof, well, people were none too happy about that, right? So when they'd see Sharon around, what are you doing with snipers on the roof? Now her cover story is that it was just an exercise. Now,
loaded sharpshooters, loaded rifles on buildings, rooftops with citizens in the area?
Right.
That's an exercise?
Right, with 150 people down there. And there's more evidence that that's a lie. Like I said, all she does is lie, lie, lie. And the other evidence is that she had the SWAT team suited up, sitting in a van for like an hour and a half around the corner. Okay, so please explain to the county of Nye, Sharon, how in a training exercise you are training your SWAT personnel by having them sit in a van for an hour and a half. Because I'm a professional trainer, and I've never seen that as training or an exercise. Just leave people sit in a van, kitted up, all their gear, their weapons, and sit there for an hour and a half? That's not training. That's called a lie. Just unbelievable. What was the other thing? There was something. Oh, Moody. Another lie.
What's his title now? It used to be undersheriff.
He still is.
Okay, but now it's undersheriff, but it's an administrative role.
He's still bringing down whatever, I think it's $90,000 a year for the undersheriff's position. He's still bringing that down.
Oh, that's half of Berukowitz.
Yeah, why bother? But Sharon said definitively, when asked during the campaign, is Brent Moody going to have to get Nevada certified as a peace officer? She said, yes, he will have to. Okay. When it became apparent that he wasn't going to and never could, she's now broken that campaign promise. That's called lying. And he's still working, sucking up his pay, and he's not a sworn peace officer. So what Sharon has done...
Now, I used to see him out on the street in his car doing stuff now and again.
Yes.
I wonder what he's doing now.
I understand to some extent he still is, but he has made it clear to all the sworn personnel that he's not, so he's just there like as an administrative overseer. Like he just pulls up at the scene and he really can't do anything.
Okay.
For $90,000 a year. So, but I guess Sharon didn't want to have to disarm him. So, Sharon instituted a brand new policy that civilian employees, non-sworn employees of the Nye County Sheriff's Department, when on duty, okay, can now carry firearms on the job. You know, I have no problem with that, with everybody carrying guns. You know me.
No.
But within the framework of law enforcement, this is insane.
You know what's interesting?
Can you imagine Metro? How many non-sworn personnel do they have in their headquarters? Hundreds?
Well, they're actually the non-sworn employees are almost as many as the sworn.
Okay.
Historically, they have more civilian employees doing busy work that you don't have to have a badge to do than any other major department in the country.
Now, can you imagine the sheriff for Clark County saying, "I'm Cristo Santo. All of you civilians can now carry guns when you come to work"?
Not this particular sheriff.
Well, not any sheriff. I mean, look, I'd love to see it because I think all Americans should carry guns at work and everywhere else. But it simply isn't done in law enforcement circles.
So here's my question.
Yeah.
Are those civilian employees that are going to do that, do they have to abide by the same qualification standards as the uniformed people, or is this just a massive liability at the county's expense?
Well, Sharon has never been adverse to assuming massive liability for the county. Look, she's kept Dave Berukowitz on. It's, just get your calculator out and figure out how much he's cost the county.
Yeah, I spoke to somebody who worked at a local attorney's office once who had told me, because this discussion had come up at some point in time, and had told me that the amount of money that Dave Berukowitz has cost the county just in lawsuits, not including the legal fees, the amount of time in and out, all this other garbage, just
the awards.
Just the awards was neighboring in the tune of hovering just over $1 million.
Wow. Yeah, and the other thing is...
that's a county of around 42,000 people paying for that.
Right. Now, if Brent Moody or any of these other civilian employees that are now toting guns were to have to take action, the liability now is solely on the county. Pool Pack, the official quasi-governmental insurance company that covers Nye County and many other governmental institutions in the state, Pool Pack would not cover that.
You wouldn't think.
And if it's deemed that allowing them to do that is negligent, for instance, not having proper qualifications in place, not only would the county be hung out to dry, but Sharon personally could be sued for negligence because the law says it'll be done this way. And people, I heard somebody at a meeting the other day, after this meeting, probably 80% of the meeting was excoriating the poor conduct of the deputies in this town. And one of the guys who was excoriating the deputies then turns to Sharon and says, "But you've done a great job. How do you criticize the troops and then hold the commander up as a stunning example of rectitude?" Unbelievable.
Yeah, I remember an old quote, "The fish stinks at the head." So it'll be interesting to see where this all plays out. Right. We'll be back.
We're back, and now it's time for... Let us talk about something called social learning. This is where people learn to conduct themselves based on the behavior of those around them. But is it always good? The University of Pennsylvania did a practical experiment. They took a doctor's office and they filled the waiting room with about a dozen people who were players, actors. And they had a woman come into the room for an appointment. And she sat, after checking in, she sat down. And all of a sudden, what happened is they had this noise, and it went beep. And everybody stood up. All the actors stood up. Now, the woman thinks that these are all just fellow patients waiting to be seen by the doctor. So she's looking around. Everybody sits down again. A few minutes later, beep. Everybody stands up. Now, this time including her, right? And then everybody sits down. Beep. Everybody stands up, including the lady. Everybody sits down. Beep. Everybody stands up. This goes on several occasions. Then what they want to do is tweak it to the next level. So what they do is they have all of the other 12 people called in to see the doctor. Somebody comes, opens the door and says, "Mr. So-and-so, the doctor will see you now." Okay. So they start one by one emptying the room. So pretty soon it's just this woman left all by herself sitting there. Beep. She stands up, waits a couple seconds, sits down. Now, they then decide to tweak it even further. While she's sitting there, they have people come in now who are not actors. They are other, just regular citizens who believe they're there for a doctor's appointment. They come in, beep, she stands up, the first guy looks at her, she sits down again. Beep. Now he stands up with her. And then somebody else comes in. And pretty soon, after several iterations of this, beep, and the whole room is standing up just because this woman who was just introduced to it half an hour ago, because she's standing up, somebody else takes it on, and everybody is acting like a lemming. So what do we learn from this? We learn that it's not okay to be seated when the sound goes off, especially if that sound happens to be the national anthem. Yes, my friends, we're going to talk about Colin Kaepernick. The national anthem. Everyone's in an uproar about this, but I don't think many people actually stop to consider what the hell is really going on here. First of all, let's talk about the national anthem. I want you to yourself, I want you to say the answer out loud if you know the answer. Okay? Who wrote it? If it's all that important, you should know who wrote it, right? I know. Bill's got his hand up. Okay. What does the national anthem, and of course none of you know anything but the first verse, right? There are five verses. None of you know any of the words but the first one, okay? That's how important it is. What does it speak of? It speaks of the British shelling Fort McHenry in the Baltimore Harbor. Okay? Tell me, out loud, what war? If it's all that important, you should know the war, right? No, it wasn't the Revolutionary War. It was the War of 1812. How long has this been the national anthem? Because the way people are reacting, you would think this was something established by the founding fathers. You would think George Washington, Madison, and Jefferson penned this song. Okay? By the way, I should tell you, it was not really a song. It started out as a poem. And then the poem was shared with some other people, and it was matched to music that's from England. It's not even the music for it wasn't even written here. Okay? When did it become our national anthem? Has it always been? No. When my father was born, and through most of his early years, there was no national anthem. Okay? It became the national anthem in 1931. Now, as an aside, I want to talk about a few things. Nancy Pelosi said that we should be using more natural gas because we don't want to be relying on fossil fuels. And there was that Congressman Hank something or other, I forget his last name, who, when sitting on a committee that was questioning a naval admiral for the United States Navy, inquired if maybe, because of all the naval activity on the island of Guam, it was in danger of tipping over. Okay? Dianne Feinstein said, it's only human nature that if we don't have guns, criminals won't have guns either, or if they do, they'll just lay them down. Okay? Barack Obama, who at one time was a senator, right? Barack Obama in the 57 the states of the Union. Okay? These are politicians. And it was politicians who in 1931 decided this song should be an anthem for the country. Why would anybody get excited because a bunch of douchebag politicians said this song should be this or that? I don't know about you, I could care less what a bunch of politicians say. Sorry. By the way, I should also point out, the national anthem failed to pass a vote to become the national anthem 7 times. 7 times. They said, no, we don't want it. We don't want this song. We don't want a national anthem is what they were saying, right? And this reminds me a lot of the Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of Allegiance was created by a guy named Francis Bellamy in 1892. Francis Bellamy was a socialist. And the irony of this is that Bellamy had a similar view to Hitler, that you want to get the kids young and program them young. And he was a socialist, and he wrote the pledge to get young children to worship the state. As a socialist, that's what he wanted. And his socialist friends who worked for the larger urban school districts worked to get the pledge into the schools. And now, those on the right today if you say, let's not have children do the pledge. Well, that's darn right un-American. When in fact, it was the pledge was a goal of a socialist that the right would tell you they despise. The insanity, what people don't know about history, is incredible. Also, the pledge, Bellamy wanted the word equality in there. You know why it's not in there? Because back when he created the pledge, Americans didn't want equality for women or blacks, so he had to leave it out because he thought as much as his fellow socialists in the large urban school environment would want it in there, they would repudiate it if it actually talked about people like, if it actually implied that people like women and blacks were actually being treated equal. Yeah. And it wasn't adopted until by Congress until 1942 in the midst of World War II. It was like a rah-rah patriotic war measure. Okay? Pledge of Allegiance isn't anything special, neither is the anthem. It's a bunch of politicians doing what politicians do. And the words under God were not added until 1954 in the context of the Red Scare, the Cold War. One of the big differences that people wanted to paint between the evil communists and the democratic West was that the evil communists don't want churches and God and things like that, but in the West, we're all about God. So, with that paradigm in mind, to distinguish America more definitively from those horrible Ruskies, they wanted under God to be added. Yep. Now, also, the pledge was originally, when Bellamy introduced it, and for some years, it was also accompanied by this, the Nazi salute. I kid you not. It was only after or in the midst of World War II when it was realized that when Hitler took the stage, everybody, Heil Hitler! It was only at that point that they changed it to put your hand over your heart, okay? This whole thing has been nutty. Now, in a United States Supreme Court case in 1940, Minnersville School District v. Gobbets, I believe, the court said you can't enforce people saying a political mantra that you want them to, which includes singing the anthem. And George Washington said that government is like fire. It is a dangerous servant and a fearful master. Dangerous servant, a fearful master. I don't know about you, but I can't imagine George Washington, the father of our nation, saying, yeah, this dangerous servant, this fearful master, yeah, I want you to say, Heil Hitler, and take an oath to the fearful monster. I don't get it. And clearly, neither did he, because he didn't advocate it, and Jefferson didn't advocate it, and Madison didn't advocate it. So whether you're talking about the pledge or whether you're talking about the national anthem, these are not things from our heritage. These are things that douchebag politicians create at the spur of the moment in a war fervor or because they thought it would get them reelected. Okay? So when somebody doesn't rise for this or doesn't choose to say the Pledge of Allegiance, they're not being disloyal to America. They're just saying, I'm not buying into that. Or perhaps, like Kaepernick is saying, I'm not going to do it because I want to make a point about this particular issue over here. And perhaps, if this was something rooted in our national heritage from the time of the founders, perhaps I would say, wow, that's kind of crummy. But the fact is, it's just politically contrived nonsense that it was never a part of our nation's heritage, and I could care less. Bill?
Dave, you had me at douchebag politician.
Yeah, there you go.
You did. You and I actually know a particular Marine veteran who does not stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance at ball games and such as that.
Former Master Sergeant?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
And this particular former Master Sergeant, Marine, who is you look at him today, you think he's still in the Corps, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And this same guy, when people give him looks and speak under their breath, oh, you ought to show some respect, his response is, I fought for this country.
Right.
And I'm not standing up for what the government is putting out there now.
Same story here. I was told the other day that, in reference to this Kaepernick issue, that I should join the Marine Corps and learn what it's like to serve. Yeah, okay. Really?
Good, yeah.
Because that whole Airborne Ranger thing doesn't count.
No, not at all. Which, by the way, it's interesting how many Marines actually opt to go to Ranger School.
Yes.
Yeah, funny enough. So when people question, they bring your patriotism in light of not standing up or not saying the pledge. I find that to be very interesting. We're running out of time in this segment. We're going to carry this on in my rant. We're going to just basically carry this entire discussion together. Because to question my patriotism, if I don't say the pledge, if I don't stand up for the national anthem, my patriotism goes to the original intent, not what it's morphed into and what we're existing with today.
Yeah, and not to political BS.
Not at all. And we'll be back, continuing right after this. You know what? It's time for me to rant, and it's a widescreen because Dave's coming right in. Over to this camera. What grinds my gears is this. When people profess freedom and liberty, and when somebody exercises it, but the message they send is different, now they think they shouldn't be exercising it. Dave, it drives me up. Well, it drives me from social media. Because social media just shows how fucking stupid Americans are and how narrow-minded, racist they are. I put up a thing on my page yesterday. It's gotten more comments on that than probably anything else I put up in months. And I have people, pardon me, talking about how Colin Kaepernick is a Muslim, which he's not.
He's not. He's a Christian.
Yeah, he's a Christian. He was baptized Lutheran. He's got
psalm with Christian psalms
tattoos all over his chest. I believe his girlfriend is Muslim. You showed me a picture, and I have to tell you, she's not wearing a burqa. One of the most gorgeous girls I've seen in a long time.
And
Holy smokes!
Yeah, and in the photograph, her.
Yeah, she's somewhat revealing.
I mean, this is clearly not the kind of Muslim that all too many Americans are concerned about.
Yeah. So you would actually.
She's like the bacon-eating, alcohol-drinking Muslim. Premarital sex, bacon-eating, alcohol-consuming Muslim.
So people are saying the guy's a Muslim. They said, well, he's half black, half white, raised by white people who adopt him. I actually saw something that somebody said. He went to college.
And he wished people through Instagram, he wished Muslims happy Ramadan. That's another reason that they're saying he's a Muslim.
Okay, well,
I mean, what the?
And if he wished happy Kwanzaa to blacks, then what?
Right.
Okay, so
that gets rid of the half white.
I guess that. Yeah. So then you've also got a situation where somebody put up there that he went to college on full ride scholarships at the expense of the taxpayers. And I'm like, wait a minute, whoa. When was the last time taxpayers paid for college tuition?
Right.
Come on. He went to UNR right here in Nevada, right? He went to UNR. And now I got to tell you, I am a pseudo football fan. Not the biggest football fan. I'm a Seahawks fan. I was growing up in Seattle as a little kid, single-digit age, when they became an expansion team. Okay. My dad got season tickets, and every year that they would come in the mail, he'd grab me and my brother, and he'd say, okay, you guys get to pick which game you want to go to, which home game, and then I'm going to take a buddy or a client or somebody out to the other ones. But you guys get first pick whatever you want.
Right on.
That was awesome, right? So I've been a pseudo football. I haven't sat down and watched a football game other than the Super Bowl in 15 or more years until a couple seasons ago after the Seahawks won the Super Bowl. To tell you that I'm a fan of Seattle, I'm not all that involved. I just found out the day that we're taping this show in late August, I'm like, I've watched a couple of preseason games. Where's Marshawn Lynch? So I looked it up. He announced during the Super Bowl game last February he was retiring. Tells you how much I'm involved in what's going on in the NFL and my own team.
You're not an NFL statistician, huh?
No, I absolutely not. So I think you had said it pretty good earlier today about what he's protesting and what if it were something different. Why don't you hit us with that? Because that was profound.
What I had posited is that what is going on against Kaepernick is not about the anthem, it's racism, and I can prove it. For a couple of reasons. First of all, number one, when Black Lives, because what his focus is he's saying that too many unarmed black young men are being killed by police illegally. That's his issue, period. And his point is it needs to be resolved, and that's what he's protesting. Okay? What was it, a month ago? The rage, because Black Lives Matter people were blocking the highway.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? They shouldn't be protesting in a way that disrupts other people's lives. Okay? So now, here's Kaepernick sitting calmly, not bothering anybody's life. That's his form of protest.
Why are you sitting on your ass, Colin?
Right, because I would like to draw attention to the following issue.
Right.
I'm not going to stand up for the anthem unless or until this is resolved. Okay? And suddenly, they're enraged. Now, the other way that I can show that this is racist is if Kaepernick had said, when he was asked, if he had said, I will not stand for the national anthem again unless or until the Veterans Administration corrects the horrible way veterans are treated in veterans hospitals, he would be a freaking hero, and 95% of the people who are criticizing him for not standing for the anthem would say, he's so wonderful. But because they're talking about state enforcement officials murdering unarmed black males in the hood, okay, all of a sudden that dirty. I had a guy.
Oh, wait, hold on, because now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up what a lot of the people out there are doing right now while you're watching this show. Well, he's never lived in the hood. He hasn't been okay, you're right. He hasn't been. He's done well throughout his life, upper middle class home and all that good stuff. Mm-hmm. So why is he protesting a part of society doesn't even affect him? Why aren't you? Why aren't you? I got to tell you.
Oh, the other one, because he's wealthy. He makes $20 million a year. What does he care? What's his business?
The flip side, well, he could do it better ways. He shouldn't protest like that. I don't think he should protest the other way. Why didn't the NFL step in? Why is it different because the Cowboys wanted to wear some sort of patch to honor the cops that were killed?
Mm-hmm. All right.
All of these are apples and orange arguments. You don't understand freedom and liberty and the exercise of your rights. The First Amendment is an agreement between you and your government. It's a right you enjoy. For you to be able to talk to them and protest them about what they're doing. He chose the opportunity to not stand up for the national anthem. Now, I don't agree necessarily with the way he does it or how he's doing it. That's not what my conversation is. It's not because I support Colin Kaepernick or if I don't support him. I want you to understand I'm coming at you from a neutral standpoint on this. What I'm saying is the guy's exercising his rights and he's got a reason behind it. I support that. I'm not a young black male either, but I got to tell you, I'm not for cops killing unarmed ones that haven't fucking done anything.
Right. And
mark that down again. I cussed.
The whole thing about, he earns $20 million a year, and then people are saying, why doesn't he just give his annual salary over to some political...
For what?
Right. And how many of the people who are advocating that are doing that themselves, giving away their annual income for a cause?
And right now, for free.
Yeah.
He's got half of the country talking about this.
Right.
For free.
He couldn't have drawn...
I wish I had that power.
If he had given away his entire annual salary this year, he could not have created as much focus on this issue as he has by failing to stand for the national anthem. And
I had someone say he looks Muslim. What is the Muslim look? This woman who put this, it was on a page that I belong to, because I took my personal post and I copied it onto this page too, because there's a lot of bigots that are on there. This woman is showing her bigoted, racist, anti-Muslim colors like nobody else, and then says things like, we shouldn't be calling each other's names. I'm like, you're a bigot.
Right.
You're a racist.
Yep.
How else can I put that and you not feel like, oh, you're calling me a name? You're saying this guy has the Muslim look. What kind of insanity do you draw your drugs from?
And it's so funny because I've heard it said that, well, he didn't think this through. When if you actually listen to his interview, he said he spent months considering this, researching it, formulating his opinion, deciding where he wanted to stand, and deciding on what he wanted to do about it. I had a guy on Facebook say, if he doesn't like it here, let him go back to Africa. But it's not a racist issue.
He didn't come from Africa.
Right.
Yeah, and that's a lot of people. It's like, if you don't like our flag, then leave the country. You know something? kiss my ass. You don't have any way to tell me how I need to be patriotic. If I'm not patriotic the way that you're patriotic, I'm wrong. If you're not patriotic the way I am, how about you're wrong?
Yeah, why don't you leave?
I don't understand this. And the idea that it has to affect you before you can stand up and say anything, there's an old saying from years back. I think it came from oppression. It was obviously by government oppression, and I'm going to have to paraphrase the whole thing, so I came totally unprepared for this, was, when they first came for this group, I did nothing because it didn't affect me. Then they came for the other group. And by the time they came for me, there was nobody to stand up for me.
Right.
So this guy, Colin Kaepernick, is standing up for those who can't. They don't have the financial resources or they don't have the notoriety to be able to do this. So he's standing up for them. It doesn't affect him, but he's not happy about the way it's going down.
I consider honorable.
So why
as hell.
aren't you doing that?
Yes. And the idea that, oh, it's still going. Okay, the idea that because a man is well-heeled financially, that he should not speak and stand up for those who live in the low econ areas and deal with issues that the well-heeled don't. Where do people get this? And the most amazing thing is I put up a video on my personal Facebook page of him speaking at an interview. There's like 1,000 microphones shoved in his face in the locker room, and he's answering questions about this. He's very articulate. He answers every question in full with integrity. He's not trying to dodge
You're not ducking it.
Not a bit. And he's explaining himself honestly and openly, answering. If you watch the video, you can see there's no hesitation. He's completely open about his views. And then people commented in the thread, and it was very apparent that many of them, from their comments, had not even watched the video, had not even heard what Kaepernick was saying about his reasons, his rationale, his lengthy process of evaluation and decision-making. None of that.
There is no discovery left for the American populace. We have the attention of a soundbite. And when it comes to that soundbite, we get our emotions riled up and we react. We don't look into it. Like the whole thing about everybody's looking at him like he's a Muslim. You and I sat and looked this guy up while we were at lunch,
right,
not being totally unprepared, and found out, well, he's actually very religious. He prays before each game. He's got Christian tattoos across his chest. We saw a picture.
Yep.
And this guy, he's been religious throughout his life. He's been baptized and reconfirmed. All of this information is available by typing in his name and hitting the Wikipedia page and reading. I found this out in under 30 seconds.
I had a woman who said he's attacking America. It's like, oh, so here, let me understand this. He's attacking America like Martin Luther King was attacking America by pointing out something bad is going on and protesting. And we talked about this blocking the roads, and I showed on my show, on the Dave Champion Show, that Martin Luther King and his marchers, they blocked roads virtually every time they marched, right?
It's hyperbole feeding hyperbole.
Yeah, just sitting there doing what he's there to do, quietly protesting, that's attacking America if you're an ignorant moron.
And if you're that ignorant, you should be reading a book, not watching this show. Goodbye. We'll see the rest of you in the next segment. Welcome back. Segment 4. We're going to start off with our carpet update 2.0. You see all this crap in this picture? That's the carpet in the background, and in front of that, that was all of the lights. It was the carpet up here, and then all the lights down here. This just pile of crap that's been sitting here for weeks now that maybe one day when this studio is, who knows, taken over.
The carpet months.
I don't know. It's
the lights weeks, the carpet months.
It's starting to smell, actually. Anyhow. Okay, segment 4. We take your viewer emails. daveandbillshow@gmail.com. There's actually not a block there. I have control over the block. @gmail.com. So that's where you can send us your viewer emails. We're going to get to one of those in a moment.
We have a Facebook presence, of course.
We do as well. You can find that. And you can also see our show catalog at totallyunprepared.info.
Show catalog.
The show catalog. Yeah. I just came up with that right now.
We should probably tell the audience once again, we did not call and coordinate our wardrobe today.
No, it just gets, so what are you wearing? No, it didn't go down.
Yeah.
So one of the emails we're going to get to from somebody sent it in a couple weeks ago, actually, was what are our thoughts on
That's always a scary opening.
It is. On a case that's going on in Tennessee, the Nashville area. This is the way it breaks down. Last February, there's some boys. They got one of their cell phones. They're passing it out. Ooh, ah, ooh, ah. Principal says, what are you looking at? And they show a picture, and it is a girl, I think another student, a female student, under the age of 18, in a compromising photograph.
Not fully clothed.
Not fully clothed, as is alleged. And the principal said, delete that off your phone, and I mean now. So it's deleted, all good and done. About 3 weeks ago, this went far enough that it got to the Nashville Police Department. They went, sought out the principal, interviewed him, and arrested him for destroying evidence in a case. Now, nobody else has been arrested, charged, or anything, but they arrested the school principal for destroying evidence. So the question is, did the principal do the right thing? Because there wasn't a policy involved.
Right.
Should he have called the police? Because I got to tell you, getting cops involved and getting the government involved in what is a disciplinary thing, whether it be parents or with a school teacher or principal, I think he's gotten way out of way. Oh, we're calling the police. You spit on the sidewalk and that's a crime, so we're calling the police.
Yeah.
It's asinine. It is. Now, oh, that's child pornography. You know what? You want to talk about child pornography? I guess taking pictures of your newborn infant who's unclothed is technically child pornography in the same case. Come on.
Yeah, it's you know, and I'm sure that the principal, well, okay, I shouldn't say I'm sure. I guess you have to look at it. If the principal had in his mindset and said to the Nashville cops, I knew it was a criminal act and I was trying to protect the young man from the criminal consequences of having that photograph. Okay, if you want to put it in those terms, technically it is destroying evidence. But if he was doing what I imagine is more likely, which is
protecting the honor of the girl in the picture?
Well, we like you were saying, we don't need to get the cops involved in everything. You know, Johnny, get that damn thing off your phone.
Yeah, because imagine this. If he did drag the kid in, take the phone, call the cops,
right,
that girl's picture is now going to forever be in evidence,
right,
and be available for the courts and everybody else involved in discovery. The cops are going to see it. Berukowitz might have it and show it around the NCSO. You never know. Instead, I see it as he stopped them from their stupid behavior and protect the innocence of the girl by saying, right now it's getting cut off.
Right.
I got to tell you, if it was one of my daughters in the picture, better not be one of my daughters in the picture, but if it were, I would prefer the principal handled it the way he did,
yes,
rather than going through let's involve the government through several agencies in this issue.
Yeah, and then, you know, you start dragging young people into criminal court for things that young people have been doing in a different way before this current technology was around, that young people have been doing forever. I mean,
those Polaroids you used to keep?
Well, I'll tell you, I think this is pretty racy, but I grew up in L.A. When I graduated 6th grade, okay,
how do you graduate 6th grade? I graduated once, 12th grade.
California is a whole different thing. So there was a graduation party at the home of, I guess, remember her name, Julie Kornblum, and she had upper middle class, very nice home, very large, manicured backyard. And she invited, I don't know, I'm going to guess like 70 of the kids from the elementary school that had just graduated. I was in Southern California, big classes, right? And we were, this speaks ill of parental supervision, but in 6th grade, we're playing spin the bottle, and then it goes beyond that, and then we end up going off in the bushes. And, you know, instead of like just a kiss.
You need to be careful with the rest of the story.
Yeah, I'm being very cautious about this. But it wasn't spin the bottle for just a kiss. And we were ending up going off behind the bushes to fulfill, you know. And this was in 6th grade. And can you imagine if a 6th grader, the cops showed up and, you know, okay, so she had her blouse off and her bra buckled and up and what was going on. Okay, you 6th graders are going. My point is, I know without even having to ask for personal stories, when you're
there's going to
young-
be hypocrites watching the show.
I-
Oh, that's terrible. That did the same sort of thing.
Of course, right. And I was going to say that. I mean,
Is acceptable then, but not now.
We all know how teenagers are. There used to be a thing, sewing the sheets back in the Revolutionary era, okay, where a boy could spend the night with a girl that he was very interested in. The mother would put him in a sheet and sew it up. It's what was that Mel Gibson movie with the American flag? He was
The Patriot?
Yeah, thank you. There's actually a scene in there. I don't know if people understood what it was, where the mom is stitching up one of the actors, and it was called Sewing the Sheets. And the funny thing is, it was supposed to keep the boy sewn up to here, and he
Like mummied.
and that's how he could sleep with the girl that night. And historians say a full 50% of the time, the girls ended up pregnant from sewing the sheets. Teenagers have been getting involved in sex, wanting to be involved in sex, actively being involved in sex, since the beginning of time. So to get the cops involved, it's like, let's get the cops involved in nature.
You know what it drives me nuts is
I'm not saying there shouldn't be boundaries, but getting the cops involved is a little
absolute
different.
pure hypocrisy. If you would have had your parents call the cops on yourself for doing something, if you would have been good with that, or if you would have done it to your own kids, fine. But then to say, oh, well, my situation's different, but theirs is, it needs to, come on. Just, find one of those old anvils that the blacksmiths use and just start smacking your friggin' head on that thing until it cracks open and the stupidity flows out.
I thought you meant from the Roadrunner thing. They used to always drop the anvil on the Roadrunner.
that was the anvil from Acme Hardware.
That's right, exactly
Coyote and the Roadrunner. Yeah.
All right, I want to challenge you on something.
Okay.
Last week we talked about voter ID laws. Mm-hmm. And when I discussed bringing technology into the picture, your response to that was, oh, more government. Mm-hmm. And I want to challenge you on the idea that using technology equals more government. Okay? And I want to do that by giving you an example of where I think technology would be a huge plus. Okay? I don't know about you, but it has always irked me. I mean, to my core, it has irked me. When I go to buy a gun at a gun store and I have to hand them government ID and I have to fill out a 4473, okay, to exercise a constitutional individual right, okay, it's always irked the hell out of me. I should not have to sign government forms.
You and me both.
Okay, so you're with me on this. So let's talk about technology. I want to talk about facial recognition software for a moment. And I know it conjures up all sorts of immediate reactions, all sorts of police state stuff.
As it already has when you just said it.
Okay. But technology is like a gun, yes? Can be used for good things or can be used for bad things. Mm-hmm. Okay? So imagine this. Anybody who gets reported for being mentally ill to the national database is reported by a court or other government institution that determines the person is mentally ill. Okay? They've been committed is the standard. If you're arrested for any of the various, convicted for any of the various violations that preclude you from owning a firearm, that is uploaded by the government agency that was involved with your conviction. Okay, so these aren't rumors or gossip. These are hard facts. Okay, so now imagine we use technology. When a person is convicted of any of the things that would prevent you from owning a firearm, or they are committed against their will for mental illness, what happens is there's a face scan done of them. When you walk, now imagine that this is 40 years in the future, so we're not dealing with paper records that we still have today, okay? So now you walk into a gun store and you want to buy a gun. No ID, no Form 4473, none of that. Because all the information that would preclude you from owning a gun comes from the government, yes? They've taken facial recognition scans of everybody who can't own a gun. So you shop around, you chit-chat with the guy, you decide, yeah, I'm going to go for that one today, this and that. You stand in front of a device. It does a scan. 3 or 4 minutes later, the green light goes on. Okay? What that means is your face didn't match any of the prohibited persons. The gun store and the government doesn't know who you are, doesn't know what gun you bought, which they should not, because it's a constitutionally protected right. All that happened was there was a scan of your face, which is not recorded, but it is compared to those that have been recorded because those people are ineligible. Okay?
Put this technology in the hand of your worst enemy. Would you trust them with it?
It's not a matter of if. It's here. I mean, you're talking as if this is discretionary.
No, what I'm talking about is this. They're going to scan my face without ID. No, it doesn't match. And you really believe that whatever government agency is behind this at some end is not going to keep that?
I don't see
It's like the instant background checks are not supposed to be kept longer than 72 hours. Do we really believe that they're not kept longer than 72 hours?
I think that's a failed argument, because what you're saying is because the government can't be trusted
to do anything,
we should just leave it broken like it is.
No, I think what we need to do is back the entire thing up. Now,
that's what I advocated last week, and you said no.
No, you didn't. You advocated facial recognition software, is what you're talking about doing. And my problem with that is, that would be before we fix the system. The voter ID law would be a good stopgap until we could get to that. But right now, we need to do something. And I don't believe jumping into facial recognition technology and revamping the government like that in the process so it is in and working is not good.
I don't see it as revamping the government. I see it as simply, today government uses computers. 60 years ago, everybody wrote on paper.
Sure.
We didn't revamp the government. We just brought in personal computers and put it on their desk. So to use technology, I don't think is revamping government.
I believe this we should revisit, and you guys probably like it. So let's get to it at some point next week.
All right.
Thanks.
We'll see you later. Thanks.